亲爱的各位老师、各位朋
Dear
友，大家
teachers
上午
and
好，晚
friends,
上好。
good morning and good
首先非常
evening.
欢迎大家来到
Welcome
永和中
to
心、
the
拉美中
online
心
workshop of
组织的这一次
International
国际中文
Standards
教
of
育中文
Chinese
水平
Language
等级
Teaching
标准
Level
的
organized
线
by
上工作
Center
坊。
for Latin
我是
American
本次
and
活动的主
Caribbean
持人，
for
永和中心
CLEC.
拉美中心
I'm the
的
host
副主
of
任
this
金阳。
event, Sun
本次
Miyang,
活动呢，
Deputy
我们为大家
Director
提
of
供
the
了中
Center
西
for
和
Latin
中英的
American for
同声传译，
CLEC.
所
The
以大家
event
可以通
provides
过咱们
Chinese
Zoom 会议
Spanish
室操作
and
界面的
Chinese
右下
English
角的传译模块
interpretation. You
来
can
自行
choose
选
by
择所
yourself
需
by
要收
setting
听
the
的语言。
interpretation module in
在
the
活动期
lower
间，大家
right
如果有
corner
任何
of the
问
Zoom
题，可以
meeting
在留言
operation
板上呢给我
interface.
们留言。
During the
等到我
event,
们
if
所
you
有的
have
嘉宾
any
发言结
questions,
束之后，我们会
you
安
can
排
leave a
发言
message
嘉
on the
宾为大
message
家
board.
来答疑
Later,
解
after
惑。
all
今
the
天呢有
guest
一个特殊
speakers
的
are
情况，我们
finished,
必须要
we
跟大
can
家说一声
arrange
抱
the
歉啊。这
speakers to
个
answer your
Zoom 的
question.
会议
Today
室
we
呢，
have
在
the
这个杨老师这边，我们的杨玉玲老师也是我们今天的这个主讲嘉宾这儿哈，出现了点问题。
there are some
杨老师
problems
现在
for
这个
this
可以登录
Yang
会议，但是没
Yuling.
法
They
发言，让我们听
they
见声
can
音。
log in our
所以呢，我
meeting,
们
but
临时呢做一下调
they
整，我
cannot
们改变一
hear
下
and
今天的发
speak.
言顺序。我们先
And
请
we
这个
change the
一会儿
order.
我们先
So
请汉考
firstly,
国际的
we
张老
will
师来发言，然后我
invite
们两位本土
the
教师发言。
Miss
然后在这
Zhang
个同
and the
时呢，
two
我们来
local
看看
Chinese
是否这
teachers.
个杨
At
老
the
师
same time,
这个
we
技术问
will
题可以解
check
决。
the
如果可以解决，那么这个皆大欢喜。我们
technology
今天呢，
problems
只是
can
把杨老
solve.
师的这个
If
主
we
旨
can
演
solve
讲
it,
往后挪一挪。如果
we will
今天
invite
还是
Miss
天公不
Yang.
作美，这个 Zoom 不
If
给咱们提
today
供这个机会和平台的话，
she
首
cannot
先我们
use
要
the Zoom
这个
platform,
请求大家的谅解。那其
we
次呢，我们
are
会
so sorry
专
for
门
all
再
the
安排
people.
改一
We
天的
will
时间，请
arrange
杨老师呢专门来给大
another
家讲一
day
讲他的
to
这一部分。好，
analysis
那
the
话不多说哈，我们
level
还是说回
standards.
我们今天的这一场工作坊。语言呢是了解一个国家和文化
Language
最好
is
的
the
钥匙。
best
那标
key
准
to
是掌握这
understand
一
a
门语言、
country
教
and
好这一门
culture.
语言的一个关键和基
Standards
础。
are the key
其实
to
从这个
master and
1992
teaching
年起呢，
language
语和中
where
心就
since
先后制定并且
1992 the
实行了一系
CLEC
列的
has
这种
formulated
规
and
范标准。你比
implemented
如
a
说有
series
汉语
of
水平、
non-pupil
词汇、
standards
汉字的等
successfully,
级大纲，
such as
有
syllables
这
of
个国
Chinese
际汉语
level
教师的标
vocabulary
准，
and Chinese
有汉语水
characters,
平考试的大纲，
standards for
等等
international
等等。
Chinese
但
teachers
是
and
随着这个国
syllables
际中文教
of
育
the
事业
Chinese
的不
level
断的
test.
蓬勃发
However,
展，我们其实
with
需
the
要对现有
vigorous
的这个标准
development
不
of
断的进行升
international
级、完
Chinese
善和打
education,
磨，
it is
以构
necessary
建
to
更加高质量的
continuously
国际中文
upgrade
教育
and
的这种
improve the
标准体
existing
系。
standards in
那目
order
前
to
呢，全
build
球
a
有
high
将近
quality
80个国家
international
将中
Chinese
文纳入了
education
国民教育
study
体
system.
系，有
At
4000多
present,
所国外的这个大
75
中小
countries
学在
around
开
the
设中文
world
课
has
程，有
incorporated
超过
Chinese
2500万的
into
人
their
在学习
national
中文，
education
有
system.
4000
More
万的
than
人呢在参加
4,000
各类
foreign
型的
universities
中文
have
水平考
offered
试。
Chinese
那么
courses.
随着这种学习
25
需求
million
的不断
people
扩
have
大，
learned
国际
Chinese.
中文
and
教
40 million
教学
people has
所面
taken
临的主要矛盾，从
various
过去
Chinese
说有
exam
没有，
with the
现在已经
continuous
发展到
expansion
好
of
不好。
learning.
所以呢，
This is the
广大的
main
这个中文学习
contradiction
者、
faced by
教
the
育者也
national
迫切
Chinese
的需要
education
我
has
们研制
developed
和出
from
台一套
is there
更加
any
规范的、
so
更
is
加
it
科
good
学
or
的、
not? The
更加包容
majority of
开放的
learners
这么一
and
套
educators are eager
行
to
之有效的
develop
标准，对中文学
and
习从
issue a
教
set of
学到学习
scientific
到测
norms,
试到评
inclusive
估
and
各个环
opening
节形
standards
成一个
that
全体
easy
系的
to
指导。
implement to
那么
provide
2021年呢，
guidance on
通过语
all
和专家
aspects of
语和
Chinese
中心
learning,
组织的
teaching,
各方面
testing,
专
and
家学者
evaluation.
的这个不断的
In
努力，
2021,
那这个
through
国际
the
中文教
continuous
育中
efforts
文
of
水平等级
various
标准
experts and
终于是
scholars
由这个中国
optimized
教育
by the
部和中国
CLEC,
国家语
the
言等级自工作
international
委员会
standards of
正式
Chinese
发布了。
language teaching
那么这
level
个
were
标准是如
finally
何研制
be
出台的？它
officially
包括哪些
released
内
by the
容？
Ministry
跟
of
以往相比，
Education of
这个标准有哪
China
些发展
and
的
the
变
National
化？那发布
Language
之
Work
后，它
Committee.
对于我们
So
这个
how was
汉语
the
水平
standard
考试
developed
又有
and
怎样的影
what
响
are
和
the
变
main
化？
contents?
以及说
Compared
这
with
个
the
标准
past,
如
what
何和海
developments
外
and
的
changes have
现
there
有的一
been
些
in their
各个国家
standard?
的外
What
语教学的
changes
标
will
准进
happen
行
to this
对
Chinese
接或者是
language
认
they
证，
text
又如何来
HSK
指导我
after
们这些老师
release?
来 进行日常的教学。我想这个可能是我们拉美地区所有中文教师的一个共性的这个关注点。因此呢，我们今天特意请到了这个国际中文教学领域的资深专家，也是我们大家非常喜爱的这个北语的杨玉玲教授，但是来为我们解读这个标准。但是刚才呢，我们也解释一下杨教授这个因为设备技术的问题，我们今天先把杨教授的这个发言先推后一点。我们接下来呢，首先有请的是汉考国际的张梦瑶老师，因为教学和考试它永远是相辅相成的一个关系。我们经常说考教结合，以考促学，以考促教。那么这个标准出来后，我们的考试有相应的哪些改革？我们今天来请这个汉考国际的张梦瑶老师。张老师是从事中文考试命题工作多年，而且全程参与了 HSK 从7级到9级，就是最新发布这3级考试的研发工作。所以呢，现在我们把时间交给张梦瑶老师，有请张老师，谢谢。
So now, okay, let's welcome, give the time to teacher Zhang Mengyao. Let's welcome.
各位老师好，非常高兴能够参加这次工作坊。那么跟大家分享这个国际中文考试发展的一些情况和基于标准的这个考试改革的情况。首先呢是对这个 HSK 的这个发展阶段做一个简要的介绍。那 HSK 1.0呢是开创于1984年，是由北京语言大学主导研发的。那1990年在中国国内开始组织实施。1991年正式推向海外，那么 HSK 1.0呢是填补了中国对外汉语教学国家级水平考试的空白，使来华留学的教育呢有了一个准入的依据。但是1.0阶段呢，它主要
in HSK 1
专业的这个汉语
only for the Chinese learners starting in China. For just for the overseas students, so researched in HSK2, HSK second, HSK second dimension is HSK 1 to 6, and completes the global popularization, which greatly stimulated the enthusiasm of learners from all over the world to learn Chinese. In 2021, is the HSK third dimension. In the short time, HSK 1 to 6 remains unchanged. It doesn't much change. So firstly, I will briefly introduce the HSK second dimension and the HSK 1 to 6. So firstly, is HSK 1 to 6 levels. We can see HSK 1 to 6 is to emphasize the communication skills. And for the test conception is a combination of test and teaching. We have real communication, opening book beneficial, and show new appearance. We stress the test on listening and speaking skills. First is real and communication. We consider the content of the speaking and the relationship for the speakers. We create a real and natural contents. For the open book beneficial, in listening, reading, and materials, when we choose the materials, we try our best to have the abundant scientific, neutral the materials. Let all the testers in listening, reading, writing have more results. And in this chart, you can see the HSK 1 to 6 is the different questions, the proper proportion. We increase the proportion of the listening. Next, we can see this picture. In 2015, the test syllabus, we emphasize the HSK 1 to 6 levels based on this syllabus. It doesn't have any change. If we adjust it, we will release the information to inform all the people. And this syllabus is an important base for the make the test. It includes the vocabulary, topic, and task. Firstly, is vocabulary. For the vocabulary syllabus, we can see for the vocabulary level chart, for the new words, and different words. For the grammar syllables, it includes different grammar points for different levels. For HSK second dimension, it penetrates the speaking, listening, writing, reading part. For the task outline as a thread, and its quantity, its level, and it more and more abundant with the develop from the level. We design literature, art, science, economy, materials to make all the subjects and the professional backgrounds students can join the test equally. For HSK test, the test purpose and Chinese teaching institutions evaluate the result of teaching, employers to hire, train, and promote their staff, Chinese learners to know and improve their Chinese level, submissions, class placements, course exemptions, and credit awarding. And in this chart, in 2023, the scholarship applying, we can see for different types of scholarship, we have different requirements for HSK grades, for HSKK grades. For the right big chart, we can see the different China's universities, they have the requirements for the HSK level. Different universities, different majors set the different requirements for the HSK level. Above is for the international Chinese test development, especially for HSK's second dimension. We briefly introduce it. And second is I will introduce the standard-based test reform. It's a main concern for all the people. It's the reform from HSK second dimension to HSK third dimension. For HSK third dimension, we meet the multiple requirements for learners and improve the test evaluation system, promote the high quality development of the HSK test. Firstly, is to meet the needs of international Chinese teaching development. The increase in the level of education focus on academic Chinese ability. So, to meet all the needs, the international Chinese teaching development. The second is adapt the expanding Chinese application. Cooperation between countries. China in the fields of economy, science, and technology deepen. The demands for the professional level talents expands test system. For the Chinese level, their Chinese level has a higher requirements. So we will provide the instruments for the evaluation. The third is the inherent need to build a scientific and perfect test system to build a broad coverage, more scientific and complete test evaluation system. Well, I introduced the research of HSK 7 to 9 levels, and it's the core content of grade standards. It's 3 plus 5 new paths. We can see this 3 is a communication ability, topic test content, and a quantitative language index. 5 is listening, reading, speaking, reading, writing, translating. Through the multiple and abundant task contents, multi-language melt communication task, combined syllables, Chinese characters, grammar, this quantitative language index to test the communication skills. Next is 7th level standard. We can see it includes be able to communicate in a basic, appropriate way on a wide range and a high level. Quantitative language index is the common requirements. The next is listening, speaking, reading, writing, and translating. We can see in 7th level, able to understand the topic task covering the content of level 7, general lecture and social news in a normal and fast speed speaking, can generally not be disturbed by the environment and other factors, accurately grasp the main facts and viewpoints, understand the logical structure of them, generally understand the social cultural connotations involved. Reading and writing and translating, because of time, we don't introduce it. And for the HSK 1 to 9 level test is the introduction of the HSK 1 to 9. It's similar to HSK 1 to 6. It has multiple exam purposes, especially for the proof of Chinese proficiency at the time of enrollment and graduation for master and doctoral students, or class placement, and for the institutions, the company, enrollment, and employee, train, promote staff. I will introduce the test paper for the HSK. HSK is one test paper for 3 levels. There are 3 levels in one test, including 1, 7, 8, 9. The specific level is divided by the score. Level 9 is the highest. For the test concept, it's highlight Chinese language and culture. Let's say the language is the basement of the culture. And for the learners, so when they learn the Chinese culture, it cannot distracted with the language. So third is we emphasis. So the strengthen the academic Chinese skills and pay more attention to practical. And for the academy, for the research, they can genuinely use Chinese to practice. And this is the structure for the HSK 7 to 9. And this chart for the website of Chinese test. I will introduce listening, reading, writing, translating, and speaking. I will introduce it. For the listening part, it's 3 parts. This part for the materials, it includes the news report, speech, lecture, documentary, and meeting. Also includes the business negotiation and debate. The first part you will listen to a passage of material. According to the sentence you give the true or false. The second part is the dialogue materials. We can see the passage is different. For the dialogue, the candidates listen to the materials. We have two types. It's a choice question, and another is fill in the blanks, fill in the keywords. The third part the third part is as the second part, but the materials are different. It's the full of the passage. And next is reading part. Reading part have three parts. The first one is read a long passage, long materials, and this materials includes reports, scientific investigations, academic thesis, and Chinese culture and Chinese outline materials. The first part is to read the material. It's a choice question. We see the question and choose the right answer. The second part is to give the order of the paragraph. So you will see the passage. We give the different order, so you need to give the right order to combine a logical passage. And one paragraph is extra, and the underlying paragraph is formed. You don't need to give it. It's not involved in the order given. The third part is to read this passage, and this question is different from the first one. In this part, all the candidates use the key informations to answer the question briefly. In HSK 7 to 9, we add the question that the students should write to answer the question. This is the reading part. Next is the writing part. This writing part has two parts. The first one is analysis of chart, and another one is the topic essay. For the high levels testers, they have the ability to analyze and explain the chart. Next is the translating part. It includes the translation and interpretation. Up to now, is a foreign language to Chinese. All the language is English, Korean, Thailand, and Japanese. And last is speaking. It includes three parts. First one is a practical reading and speaking. The candidates need to read the materials. You have the time to prepare it, and within the time, you must complete, combine the question. You must output the materials of this question. Second part, you will listen the materials, and combined with the materials, you will answer three questions. The last part, and you listen short materials and explains your opinions for yourself. We emphasize the cross-cultural expression put in this part. This is the overview and the structure of HSK 7 to 9. And This one is the grade report, and we will give the different part scores, and at the same time we will give the levels evaluation. For HSK 1 to 6 reform, in a short time, the validity, test content, reference standards, and test form of the test will remain unchanged. Will continue to be implemented stably. The results of the candidates who join HSK 1 to 6 level are still valid. The validity of the certificate they have obtained remains unchanged. The text and the course are still using based on the 1 to 6 writing and developing. After the stable implementation of the HSK 7 to 9, we will start the reform of HSK 1 to 6 levels based on the actual situation of overseas Chinese teaching and learning. We will combine the practical reality to adjust the HSK reform. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Zhao. We can see a comprehensive, more and more comprehensive HSK examinations. And analyze the requirements and the reform for the HSK 7 to 9. And at the same time, HSK 1 to 6 remains unchanged. Even if it changed, it's not a big change. If we have any change, it's based on the requirements and investigations, especially for all the Chinese teachers. Thank you for the teacher Zhang. Now let's welcome the local teachers. We especially invite in Latin America senior experts, the local representative. One is from the Argentina, Zodi. One is from Brazil, Ru Chenxi. We will invite the two teachers to analyze their feelings and their opinions. And this standard, how to combine them with their teaching. Firstly, let's welcome Zodi. Okay. Good morning. Good morning to Latin American friends and good evening to the Chinese friends. Hello everyone, I will introduce myself. My name is Zodi. I'm the Chinese local teachers. I is a Bachelor of Chinese Language and Literature, Master of Education. I came to Argentina in 2011. I worked in the middle school, private school to teach Chinese. It's very honored to be invited by the flag. I will introduce how to efficiently integrate international Chinese education and Chinese international level standard. I will share for the past standard and now the standard, how to combine the international baccalaureate organization and the Cambridge Chinese system. For the Chinese teaching in Argentina is not included into the national system, but some province, they have their own syllabus, and they start the middle school and primary school course. In 2018, I went to the international school to teach the IB Chinese and the Cambridge Chinese system. This two systems is the totally new and challenging skills. IB Chinese, it does have the textbooks. Also, we have the Chinese Cambridge, the textbook. It's not very suitable. We choose the Beijing Language and Culture University for several textbooks. I combine it. After this, I found when I discussed with us teachers, they also face the problems, what to teach and how to evaluate. So for solve these problems, so firstly, before the semester, we have we will put some standards. First one is based on Argentina National Foreign Languages Teaching Outline. Our school is in Buenos Aires, and we master the foreign language teaching design plan promulgated by the Provincial Education Administration, International Baccalaureate course system, and Chinese course guide for the Cambridge IGCSE Chinese as a foreign language course guide. They will choose Chinese as a second language or the first language outline. And all the students will join HSK and International Chinese Education Chinese level standard. Before 2020, we use the general curriculum outline for international Chinese teaching. It's HSK second dimension, HS 1 to 6, the syllables. The last is as a teacher of middle school, we must with the director and headmaster to discuss the school interdisciplinary curriculum and school-based curriculum requirements. So firstly, this is based on all the requirements, how to combine the multiple Chinese curriculum system articulation schemes. Because I teach in middle school. In capital of Argentina, in Buenos Aires, for the primary school is 5 years. For the primary school is 6 years. For middle school is 6 years. For the middle school, the 6 years starting for the 7th and 8th grade, it's the school-based courses. And for the materials, is I combined. After these 2 years studying, they will join the YCT1 or YCT2 according to their level. And in 9th grade and senior school 1st grade, and they will join the Cambridge IGCSE course. When they choose the Chinese, the Spanish-based students, they will choose Chinese as a foreign language. For some students, they are native speakers. They can choose Chinese as a first language. Whether they join the test, it's their choice. When they join the test, they don't join the test. I require all the students must join the HSK 1 or 2. To make all the students have the same enthusiasm, pressure to learn this language. In senior, is 11th grade and 12th grade. And we will enter the international baccalaureate organization training. And if they want to get this diploma, they must pass the six subjects. And this six subject, the 3 subjects obligation, and the other 3 is they can choose. After this, all the students, we advise them and encourage them to join HSK 3 and HSKK. Why we emphasize this standards? Because of the Chinese lesson of the lesson. It's not the workshop. It's not an interesting class. Because it's included in their grade report, it will meet the standards for the national and it must permitted by the education of the ministry. We teach the teenagers and for the adults, it's different, not only in the teaching methods. I don't know for all the students, they teach for the adults or for the teach in the middle school. Perhaps teachers have the experience for middle school and adults. For the local students, the teachers not only to teach the Chinese language. In daily work, teachers as a formal teacher will take the students to travel and celebrate and organize the activities and to present the activities and take the students to join the Chinese bridge competition. It needs the Chinese teachers to present their talents and to output the language and culture every time. For the international baccalaureate organizations, it's included, it's not only for the grades, not only for the scores and other requirements. So for the teachers, when they evaluate, we must, based on these dimensions, we have the comprehensive standards. Just now, they mentioned 3+5 new case, 3 classes, 9 levels, 4 dimensions, and communication skills, topic task contents, and language quantitative index. For me, new syllables with the IB and Cambridge system in one pass. Just now, we introduced in high-level learners to emphasize the academic Chinese skills and cultural skills. So when we in the daily teaching, we can and using we face the students is to for the Spanish and English native speakers. And we also have the pressure for the international Chinese teaching. When for the
IB 或者是 IG， 它每隔一段时间就是都会有一个版本的更新。2020年的时候
，in 2020 for the IB course upgrade a new syllabus. In 2021 for international Chinese teaching education released a new syllabus to meet respond to the new challenges of new syllabus. For HSK 126 remains unchanged. If they have any changes, we will inform. But for the new syllabus, we found that some information for me for these 4 points. I will respond to the new syllabus in these 4 parts. First one is integrated corpus, and using the 9 syllables language quantitative standards with the syllables, vocabulary, grammar to fill in the IB and IG course the syllables the lacks of the Chinese characters, vocabulary, and grammar documents, and fill up the IB course without the textbook, and help the students to read and write to design the book. And it's convenient for our teaching and to make the teaching plan. For IB and IG, for IB course, it doesn't, the textbook for IG it's not a very suitable textbook. For the Cambridge Chinese textbooks, it doesn't have the syllables, characters, vocabulary, and the meanings divided. For example, for the first lesson, it's just in one page. It's not divided in different parts. For example, characters, syllables, grammar. So for the students, it's hard to get this textbook. And for us needs, we provide different syllables, pinyin, and the shapes and characters and the meaning, the different meaning and different parts to read the long passage. And next one is integrated contents. For the IB language acquisition, have 5 topics. Identification, experience, event, social organization, and sharing earth. For IGCSE 5, this 5 parts is very similar with IB course. If the students experience the first 2 years and they grasp the basic pronunciation, they grasp the basic writing skills, they can learn this textbook. In senior school, in the last 2 years, they can continue these 5 parts. For example, personal and social life is the world around us. We'll talk about the future plan and for the environment protection and for the new HSK reform for the writing have some topic about environment protection. For the new task contents, the learners in studying, living, working, they using the common topic when they use Chinese. We firstly to select the common topics and find the third part is task-based teaching. I will use this model to develop the listening, speaking, reading, writing, translating language skills, and the model. I will use the task-based teaching to design the new HSK9 syllabus with the IBIG course integrated task. Develop the listening, speaking, reading, writing, translating skills, and guide the students comprehensively use the Chinese skills and cross-functions of cross-cultural and critical thinking, and promote their language level and cultural understanding. The last part, for the test experience, we often said, I hope the students can improve their language skills. We have urgent needs, give their more dictation and writing and test practice, including in IBIG test and HSK examination. We have many preparations for the test. We can adjust the international test and adjust the international model and make them to touch the new questions and new. In IB Chinese test in 2021, it added the listening part. In the new syllabus, in writing part, there are many accurate requirements. This is, I conclude the writing and the writing practice for the basic 1, 2, 3 levels. It requires the total of the quantity of the Chinese character. The first level is 100, second 200, third is 300. For the speed of writing, writing 10 characters in 1 minute, 15 characters in 1 minute. Third level is 20 characters in 1 minute. For me, when they join HSK 1 or 2, we don't have the accurate requirements for the writing. Even if it doesn't have this change for the long term. For HSK 7, 9, it's increased the difficulty of the writing. So we must consider this part. Thank you for your listening. If you contact me in this field, if you discuss with us, we can contact. Keep the contact. Thank you.
汇报一下，介绍一下我们这个邹老师的情况。邹老师是这个剑桥 IG CSE 汉语作为课程的这个教师。
IBDP Chinese, AB and Mandarin in the initial teacher, IBDP examiner and content developer, Cambridge IGCSE Chinese as a second language teacher. And Mr. Judy has great connections with the education of the ceiling. So Professor Zhou combined his Chinese experience to share the system and combined with the international and the local system combined, and to find a good path to guide their content and the textbook and the materials they choose to teach, and the experience. It's certified there is no perfect textbook, and the perfect textbook is coming, and the perfect textbook is in the mind and heart, and we will choose a better textbook and combined with our experience for the 100% voting. And next, we will invite a local teacher from a major Chinese teaching family in Latin America, Ru Chenxi. Ru Chenxi is working as a Chinese teacher at the Red International School in São Paulo, Brazil, and the Confucius Institute, São Paulo State University. A teacher like teacher Zhou Di just now, she is an excellent representative for local Chinese teachers in Latin America. So give the time to the teacher Ru Chenxi. Thank you. Thank you, Teacher Sun. Hello, every teachers. I'm the local teacher in São Paulo, the Confucius Institute. I'm very glad to join this integration of the newest Chinese level standards and Brazilian Chinese teaching. In March and April, I'm very glad to join the translation for the Portuguese translation. I translate the 1 to 6 levels vocabulary and grammars, and join this meaningful project for my work and life is very cherishable. Now I have the opportunity to share, put the newest Chinese level and the Brazilian Chinese teaching integrated. Firstly, for the new standard and for the past standard comparison. For this part, we can see the new and past level standard, except besides the increase for the vocabulary, the big changes is at the 7 to 9 levels vocabulary. For the new and past standards, we can see the difference in 1 level or 2 levels increased 1 time. For the 6th level, it's a decrease than the past standards, but for the 7 to 9 levels, it increased greatly for the vocabulary. For the 2nd and to the 5th level, it increased 2 times. For 6 levels is increased one time. It's the comparison between the new and the past level standard. Next, we can see the vocabulary in different levels for the total quantity. And we can see generally in different Confucius Institute and private institutions in Brazil to divide the 3 parts. We divide the 3 levels, and it depends on the Confucius Institute and private institutions. Maybe there are different systems, but in Brazil, for the contents, Chinese teaching and with the new syllables has a big difference for the new and past level standards. We can see in this chart, in Brazil, Chinese teacher, it's the same as the past level standards in 1 and 2. In 3 level and 4 levels, is the past level standards is a little bit more, but for above 4 level, it's have much more than Brazil Chinese teaching. Above 2 levels, the difference is large. So for Brazil Chinese teaching, from the basic to the high level, for all the levels, Chinese teaching in Brazil just is equal to 1 to 3 levels in the new standard. For the Brazil Chinese teaching, we cannot catch up the new standard because of the Chinese teaching is meant for the adults, the community. Every level maybe just have 50 to 60 class hours, and they join their work, and they are half work and half study. They don't have enough time to study Chinese. Of course, some students adore Chinese, so they can approve this level. I'm so curious the state of the Chinese teaching in other countries. Now, I'm thinking how to combine with the new Chinese levels with the Brazil Chinese teaching. A better integration between new standard with the Chinese teaching gradually increase the vocabulary taught in Chinese language teaching in Brazil, increase the amount of Chinese class hours to ensure that students have more time to learn Chinese, increase the number of Chinese teaching levels in Brazil to the new level standards, write and adapt teaching materials and teaching. I believe there are many solutions. I hope can get the solutions from all the experts. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chen Xi. Because of Chen Xi joined the translation of the new standards, I can feel I found your feeling is comprehensive with the Chinese new standards with the Brazil Chinese teaching. And these two Chinese local students are very excellent, and they analyzed the new standards, feelings, and how to apply into the teaching. Now, let's Professor Yang Yulin.
要不然您别分享进去了，我们请那个我们的助理给您分享，我怕您这一分享再把声音搞没了。
哎呦我的天哪，好吧，那我可能时间就会非常的紧张。行，
没关系，没关系，请那个比安嘎，请我们拉美中心的助理比安嘎给这个共享一下屏幕，然后您每次
我们试一试，
我们好。
好的，我们试一试，谢谢，那就辛苦哪位老师。刚才听了3位老师的分享，我自己也受益很多。哎，我们试一，好像还没有分享吧？
我们能看见了。
好的。那刚才其实有可能想共同分享的东西，我就会非常的快了。也谢谢3位老师刚才的。
Thank you the 3 teachers for the sharing. Today, I will share the 2 types is the analysis of the level standards and have some in common with Chen Xi. The most important is the teaching countermeasures. Oh, no, okay, let's start. Okay. And I will briefly introduce for the process of the standards. International Chinese education for the level standards, the 3rd dimensions. Before 3rd dimensions, we have 1st, 2nd dimension. And what changes in these dimensions? We cannot introduce very detailedly, and I will introduce what changes in the new syllables.
PPT 还是得这样有点浪费时间。
杨老师，那您是想自己试验一下吗？你是想自己试一下吗？
我自己试一下好不好？我自己试一下，
可以。
然后
我们沟通一下，您稍等。
我来试。
Okay, everyone, wait a moment. We will test the platform. Please wait a moment.
OK。
可以吗？
可以，
要不我不放映状态，可能不放映状态是不是好一些？
可以。
那我们就来这样试一试啊。我们共同的期待啊。好，那么这个研发的背景其实不用多说。
For the research backgrounds, because the role of Chinese in international communication is becoming more and more prominent, and the demand for the Chinese learning is expanding. And the demand for the Chinese Plus is increasing. And for the Chinese Plus is increasing because they learn the Chinese Plus. If they have the low vocabulary, they cannot to learn the Chinese Plus course. And international Chinese education urgently needs a set of scientific norms, inclusiveness, openness, and easy to implement standards to guide Chinese learning, teaching, and testing. This is a big thing for the Chinese international education. For the characteristic, and for the red part is The first is the Chinese characters and language quantitative index. And what's the change? The first one is Chinese characters. And for the demand of the Chinese characters now is the 3,000 Chinese characters. And the most important is the grammar. And how to face this change. The first one is the grammar. Now we have the grammar level syllables. And these standards for the grammar syllables, and in the process of the syllables, we refer to different grammar syllables, and to conclude the advantage and the demerit for the new syllables. And we refer to the grammar research results, and we do we melted the new textbooks grammar arrangements. And first one, let's see this. For the total reduction, for the grammar levels in HSK1 first dimension, have the 1,168 grammar. In second is HSK third dimension is 572. And for the grammar's reduction, why we reduce the grammar? Actually, it's a very scientific change. Why we say it's scientific? We can see, for example, for these words in grammar, or some idiom, or some this phrase, fixed phrase and idiomatic phrase in the grammar. It's not a scientific part, and we put it into the vocabulary. So for the total, it decreased for the grammar. Actually, we just adjust the part. It's the first change. In the total reduction, the net more reasonable distribution. For the distribution, we can see the comparison. This is the past standard. In preliminary, it's more than 100 grammar. In middle and high, it's up to more than 400 and more than 500. And we can see the distribution. You can see the right chart. We can see the HSK third chart. The distribution is very scientific. In every level, it's no more than 100. When the learners to study it, they don't have the much pressure, and it's more scientific and reasonable. And let's look at the quantities comparison. For example, we can see the complement. Complement is a very important grammar for Chinese. We can see the result. We can see the result complement. In preliminary, we finished, and for the directional complement, from the second to the sixth, we still to learn directional complement. For some difficult complement, we will study this complement from the preliminary to the high. Let's see the directional complement. In second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, there are the directional complement. For the preliminary is the basic, and in the middle and advanced, we will see the extended usage. And for the directional complement, we divide it into different levels. And for the learning difficulty, we also distracted. Next is the special sentence pattern. For example, this 把. In different levels, there are the 把 sentence. And we don't study this sentence just in once. So it's a notice the teachers. We don't throw one class to learn all the grammars. It's impossible. So from these standards, it gives us a very scientific distribution to teach the grammar. Others, I don't say the others. For example, we can see the 把 sentence. For example, from the third level, if you have the interest, you can see the standards, different levels, and what we should teach in different levels. And the 把 sentence is very special, and we just teach it in once, but it's impossible. Also, next is the grammar changes. And next is vocabulary change. We have a big change in vocabulary. The first one is total increase. For the overseas teacher, when they talk to us, they told us a problem. It's the quantity is increasing. Up to HSK third levels is more than 10,000 because HSK for the past HSK is more than 8,000 and 5,000. But this change is scientific. And what has been added to the vocabulary? Where are they from? First one is idiom. It's increased 108 idiom. And we can say Professor Lu Jianming, we should teach students the formal Chinese. In formal Chinese, there must have many idioms. If the students want to see the Chinese class, they must study the very difficult Chinese. In this way, pick it from the past standards. And another one is idiomatic phrase, like 穿小鞋, 出洋相, 定心丸. In the past, it's in the grammar part, but now it's in vocabulary part. Now, that third is the structure. For the output for the students, they must have this structure. If you want to say it very fluently and authentically, it must have this structure. And from the grammar to the vocabulary. And the generally increased is the new words. It's very scientific. For example, WeChat, QR code, data, representatives, and for all of this new vocabulary, it's very necessary. And the second characteristic is vocabulary extension to both ends, emphasis on morphemes and language block. Actually, from the new standards, first one is the increase the morphemes. Next one is the increase the language block. For example, what is the morpheme? For example, with 加 and with 化, this the morphemes with the strong. And this can self-expanding vocabulary. When we say it's more than 10,000, we cannot just, when we teach one word and the students study one word, we need to increase the morpheme and use the morpheme to study more words. And the second is we increase the language block. Sounds like this is the language block, we can increase the fluency and authenticity. And for all the things, put the emphasis. And for the vocabulary change, first one is increase and to extend the two ends. So later, when we talk about the countermeasures, we will go back to this topic. So now I just introduce it briefly. For the Chinese characters, and you can feel for the total amount has not changed too much. Can recognize now can recognize 3,000, can write 1,200. It's not too much. If have a scientific teaching methods, it's easy to solve it. The next is the role of Chinese characters has been paid attention to. Using characters with words. Later, I will analyze these characteristics. Because of time, I just introduced it very briefly. I just talk it very briefly. I will analyze a very important change. For the most important part is countermeasures. When we face the new standards, the new changes, for the good changes, if you want to detailedly analyze it, it appeared the Chinese characteristics. The first one is lexicalization of grammar teaching. I will give some example later. In the past, grammar has too much, now is decreased. So we have idiom called carrying sense into a tower. I will give an example. A second is a self-expanding vocabulary. We cannot meet when we teach one, the students teach one, study one. When we teach one, we should make the students study more words. And with the time no change, the students can study more words. And how to expand the vocabulary? The first one is highlight the characteristics of Chinese and build a network of lexical relationships. And the next one is a multimodal teaching. We should do the interesting teaching. When we increase the vocabulary, if you are very boring teaching mode, the students will have no interest to learn Chinese. And the next is the classroom extends beyond the classroom. If the class time doesn't change, we must extend our classroom. Last one is we will it has more confusing words. They don't have the confusing words. They don't have the two words the meaning, and they need the teacher have more analysis. I will introduce and give some example in these 5 aspects and how to solve these countermeasures. And for all the changes of the grammar, I make this chart. The vocabulary is increasing, but the grammar is decreased. So, and we see weaken grammar, enhance vocabulary. And under this situation, how to teach is self-expanding vocabulary, and how to make it weaken grammar, enhance vocabulary. Next, let's see the separate verbs. When we study separate verbs, for example, let's see 他经常帮忙我，大家都鼓掌他。我要见面一个朋友 with objective. Also separate verbs, we cannot plus the objective. Overlapping form and misplaced dynamic particle. This for all the separate verbs, Every separate verbs have these errors. This is a grammar phenomenon. We just tell this phenomenon what is separate verbs and how to use these separate verbs. I think most of the students may make these mistakes. So how to make the students study the separate verbs? And according to the new standards, we put this into the vocabulary. If every separate verb they can understand and this phenomenon, they will get it. So how to teach it? I will give you example. For example, 拍照, take photos. When we teach 拍照, firstly, we let the students know the pinyin and the meaning. And let's say what's he doing? And we tell say we cannot say 他拍照孩子, we should say 他在给孩子拍照. And what does it take? And 他们在拍毕业照. And what's she doing? And what does she take photos? She takes selfie. And from this teaching, we use the grammar separate verbs into the separate verbs. Through this, we can put the separate verbs grammar into the vocabulary. When we study all the separate verbs, we can understand this grammar phenomenon. The next is the practice. We can review this 拍照. And all the people we can see it's the difficult part for study, and the students make more mistakes for the separate verbs. And when teachers teach the separate verbs, you must create a different structure to teach. For example, 结婚. For example, 帮忙 help. You see, 给 help. See, meet. For teachers, when the students prepared, you must know the common structure. We can highlight the practice the separate verbs. Once they know every separate verbs, they will understand this grammar phenomenon. And for others, grammar into the vocabulary, we can throw the vocabulary to teach grammar. For example, 终于 finally. 终于 plus something you want to occurred. 有点儿 plus some unexpected things. 好端端 is good. It must have a bad changes for the health. I give the more examples. I want to tell all the people how to put the grammar into the vocabulary to practice. For example, 越来越 more and more. This is mistakes for my students. For example, 他越来越说得好. 我觉得学习汉语越来越很有意思. Absolutely, these are false. When we teach the more and more plus the adjective or some emotion verbs, so the subjective must in the front. When I do this, I put some grammar phenomena into the vocabulary. When we finish all the grammar, and when we study the vocabulary, we must strengthen all the vocabulary. The second is a big change for the new standards is expand the total vocabulary. In Brazil, they require the total quantity of the vocabulary just 1,800. For our new standard is more than 10,000. For our teaching, we must think the new measures, how to teach the students to self-expanding vocabulary. For Chinese, you give a fish, it's better to give the measures to fish. So in Chinese teaching, how to give the students, how to expand the vocabulary and cultivate the morpheme conscience for students. Just now I said for the new standards, a big change is to emphasize the morpheme. For the Chinese, in the past, we have less emphasis for the morpheme. For English, we have the morphemes. For English, we pay more attention for the morphemes. But for Chinese, we neglect the Chinese morphemes. It also play a very important role. For example, 肉 means meat. When you study a word, an animal, and plus 肉, it means this meat. For example, next one is plus 月is month. For the week, teachers in the past, can we emphasize the importance of the morphemes? And next, we can see the trees. We can see the leaf, branch, trunk, rose. Whatever the trees, it's one type of the trees. We will put the shu behind this word. For example, this morpheme of shu, when they combine this words, it's very helpful for students to learn the vocabulary. And in the past, we have less attention of this morpheme. But now we must cultivate morpheme conscience for students, and it can avoid the mistakes the people make. This is Beijing University. Students, I say 头发 is here. It's your legs hair. Next one is I want to eat a chicken. They don't know egg is the chicken's egg. Next is the 烤鸭 is the roast duck. They don't know which is 烤 roast, which is 鸭 duck. Next one is 婚礼. It's wedding. For example, 迎接 is welcome. All these mistakes, when we teach, we don't have the conscience of the morphemes. We don't emphasize the morphemes. We must enhance based on the new standards and the mistakes students make. We must enhance the morphemes analysis and cultivate the morpheme conscience. And we can see when we see the scientist, when we can analyze when a word, the last word is 家, it means expert. For example, 科学家 is expert in science. 物理学家 is a person expert in physics. In the past, we don't have enough attention for the morphemes. We must enhance the morphemes. We analyze the morphemes. For example, we said for the mi fan. When we started to mi the fan, we can conclude what is mi. When they see all the words, they can guess what is the means. We can do things when you teach one student gets 3 or more words. And this vocabulary is increasing quickly. And this 画, and in the past we say 美化 beautify, 标准化 standardization. This is 画 in the last of the words. It expresses the nature and the state. 沙漠化. This place in the past it's not the desert, but now it's desert. It's desertification. And when we notice this part, we must notice the students when they meet these words, they can guess what's the meaning of this. And in the new standards, when we increase the amount of the vocabulary, the big change in new standard is to emphasize the morphemes. And now we must enhance the morphemes. And for the morphemes, they have the meaning. How to enhance the morphemes? How to use the radicals to break the boundaries of characters and words, and improve the self-expanding literacy and vocabulary. And this is the problems I met in teaching. So a student asked me, why is a radical yue is related with the body? And so all the words with yue is related with your body. Yue in ancient Chinese, the two characters, when we write, it's similar. And when we say it, it's similar, so we combine it, it becomes yue, but it's not the same. When the left or behind is yue, it means meat. But yue in the right, for example, xin, xi, ming, it's yue in the right. It's not the meaning of the meat, it means lunar. So when you find this phenomenon, so this Bing radical is related with a sickness. So I is cancer. So when you during the teaching, you must use the radicals to help the students to expand the literacy and vocabulary. And you can see the numbers. It's the Chinese levels. For example, you teach the level 3 students, you will expand the characters is little. When you teach the level 6, you can use more characters. And the teachers can choose the, you can choose the vocabulary. For example, Bing is sickness. All the Bing is related with this radical is related with the sickness. And these numbers is the levels in new standards. And we can see with the we can see the more difficult part was when I click this word, it will appear the different words. And what's the purpose? Our purpose is to achieve from radical to characters, from characters to vocabulary, to expand the vocabulary. The most common radicals is the radicals are too much. The radicals is not too much. Common radicals is 51 for Chinese characters. The radicals are 201, but for common radicals is 51. These 51 radicals can solve many problems. We require the students can recognize 3,000, write 1,200, but these 51 radicals can solve many words. And for this, for the 51 radicals, if have the interest in my YouTube, it has the 51 radicals. Every class you can teach one radical. For example, today you just need HSK level. We said 你好, hello, 他, he, she, is. It has 3 radicals of 单人旁. I will increase one class to increase 1. With the time goes by, then we are studying more characters. And when you click this word, it will appear different words. I hope you can, everyone can emphasize the radicals to the characters, improve the literacy and vocabulary. The next one, self-expanding vocabulary. We need to help students construct vocabulary relational networks. Words exist in our minds in the form of networks. It's related. It's related. But when we teach the vocabulary, we just one word by word to teach the students, just study one word by word. Actually, when in our brains, we have the heart dictionary. We must construct the vocabulary relational networks. For example, today, this 形状 it means shape, which we just not only tell the shape, for example, 圆形 round, 正方形 square, 心形 heart shape, 三角形 triangle. We can use this 形状, we can expand the different vocabulary. For example, when we study 绿色 green, I can say what colors do you like? And at the same time, you can teach different colors. This is the vocabulary networks. When you study 水果 fruits, we can ask you what fruits do you like best? And every student can speak one fruit, and you can construct the vocabulary of fruit. Next one from 爷爷, father's father, and you can see, you can study all the words. Self-expanding vocabulary have other measures. For example, 四季, 4 seasons, and we can teach the students.
那我就不全屏播放了啊。我刚才谈到的就是通过这
Just now I talked about from these measures to expand the vocabulary and to construct vocabulary networks. When we study the vegetables, we can ask what vegetables do you like? We can construct the vegetables networks. And next, during the teaching, how to do it. For example, we can, for the class, we can, when we talk about starting the movie, we can do a vocabulary trees. All the words is related with the movies, and you can compare it with the before class, after class, the change of the vocabulary. And this is my students do it. And for example, square dance. And she writes many different vocabularies. It's the measures to expand the vocabulary. With the time goes by, when they talk about it with others, many teachers said that the change of the new standards, we need increase the output of our speaking. And when we talk with others, for the output, the language, they don't occur that they have no words to speak. We must construct the vocabulary networks have many measures. For example, when we see the marriage, we can see, I will say the marriage words. And for the male is a bride and a bridegroom. And when we hold the wedding, where hold the wedding? In the church. And in China, we don't hold the wedding in church. Because the far from the Latin America with China, and the platform give us a much barrier for us. And it's not in fact the fascinating speech and give us of the teachers in Latin America many guides and inspirations because of the internet problems. Because of the problems of the Professor Yang, I will help her to give the conclusion. I see the PowerPoint sharing. In the later, I will talk about with the speakers for the guests. We will discuss with them. If we can share the PowerPoint, we will share the PowerPoint in our platform. For today's speech is thank you for all the speakers, and especially for the Yang Yulin and Zhang Mengyao. Because now in China it's at midnight, accompany us time, and also thank you for the local teachers and the two teachers, and we can see the inspirations and the source for the Chinese development in Latin America. We have full passions and confidence for Chinese teaching in Latin America. And thank you for all the representatives. And thank you for your supporting for Latin American Center. Thanks for your patience and understanding for us. And thank you for all the colleagues. And to face this, the occasions, thank you, Andrea, Bianca, Naudi, and for all the interpreters. Thank you for all the people. Thank you. The workshop is over. We will see you in June. Thank you. Bye.